All right, let's do this. Grab your popcorn, because this is a wild one. So get this. The U-Haul truck is literally pulling away from the curb, loaded with my mom's stuff. She's standing on the lawn, mascara running down her face, screaming at me that I'm a monster, that I'm desecrating my father's memory. And her fiancé, this greasy-haired tool named Mark, is standing right beside her, trying to look intimidating while also making sure his precious new golf clubs don't fall off the dolly. And all I did was hand them an eviction notice. For my own house. The house I grew up in. The house my mom had just kicked me out of. Yeah, you heard that right. Let me explain, because this story is a masterclass in how quickly things can go sideways. It all started about a year ago, on the worst day of my life. My dad passed away. It wasn't sudden, he'd been sick for a while, but that doesn't make it any easier, you know? He was my hero. My dad was this solid, dependable guy, a planner. He was an accountant, which sounds boring, but it meant he had everything in order, always. He taught me how to change a tire, how to manage a budget, how to be a good man. My mom, well, my mom is more of a free spirit. Dad was the anchor that kept her from floating away. They loved each other, for sure, but they were opposites. When he was gone, that anchor was gone, and she just drifted. The first few months were a blur of grief. I was trying to finish my junior year of high school, keep my grades up, and basically just survive. Mom was a wreck. I don't blame her for that. I was a wreck, too. We were leaning on each other. Or so I thought. About 6 months after Dad died, she introduced me to Mark. He was a grief counselor from a support group she'd joined. Let me tell you, this guy set off every single alarm bell in my head from minute one. He had this smile that never quite reached his eyes and a handshake that was just a little too clammy. He'd say things like, "Your father is in a better place, champ," while patting me on the shoulder, and it just felt so fake, so rehearsed. Mom was smitten. She said he understood her pain in a way no one else could. I thought, okay, if he helps her, I can tolerate him. I was wrong. It started small. Mark started coming over for dinner a few nights a week. Then he was just always there. His toothbrush appeared in the bathroom. His ugly leather jacket was permanently slung over my dad's favorite armchair. He'd sit there, in my dad's chair, watching my dad's big screen TV, and critique my homework. "You know, Alex," he'd say, pointing at my calculus homework with a chicken wing, "the real world is about sales, not sine waves." I'm not kidding. I tried to talk to my mom about it. I said, "Mom, isn't this a little fast? It feels like he's taking over." She got this defensive look in her eyes. "Alex, don't be like that. Mark is helping me heal. Your father would want me to be happy." That became her go-to line for everything. Your father would want me to be happy. It was the ultimate trump card. And how could I argue with it? Of course I wanted her to be happy. But this wasn't happiness. It was like she was erasing my dad. The first major escalation happened with the car. Dad had this beautiful, classic 1969 Mustang he'd restored himself. It was his baby. We'd spent weekends working on it together my entire childhood. He'd promised it to me for my 18th birthday. It was more than a car. It was him. One afternoon I came home from school, and it was gone. The garage was empty. I ran inside, my heart pounding. "Mom, where's the Mustang?" She was in the kitchen, humming, while Mark was looking at resort pamphlets. She wouldn't look at me. "Oh, honey, we sold it." I felt the floor drop out from under me. You what? Why? You can't. Dad left it for me." Mark chimed in his slimy, calm voice. "Now, Alex, let's be realistic. A car like that is a money pit. The insurance, the gas, it's not a practical vehicle for a young man. It's not supposed to be practical." It was Dad's. I was shouting now. My mom finally turned to me, her face hard. "It was in my name, Alex. The money is going to a good use. Mark and I are going to Jamaica. We need a break. It's been so stressful." They took the money, my dad's legacy, the car we built together, and went on a 2-week tropical vacation. They sent me postcards. I stayed home, in the house that was starting to feel less and less like mine, and just simmered. My blood was boiling. It wasn't just anger I felt. It was this profound sense of betrayal. It was the first time I realized my mom was actively choosing this stranger over her own son, over my dad's memory. Things just got worse from there. They came back from Jamaica all tanned and lovey-dovey, and Mark was officially moved in. He started making comments about renovations. "You know, this whole wall could come down. Really open up the space." He was talking about the wall where my dad had meticulously marked my height every year since I was 3. I'd stand there and run my fingers over the pencil marks. Alex, age 5. Alex, age 10. Alex, age 16. He wanted to tear it down for an open-concept living space. I started spending more and more time out of the house. I'd be at friends' places, at the library, anywhere but there. The atmosphere was suffocating. Mark tried to act like my new dad, setting rules, telling me to do chores. I was 17, almost 18. I had a part-time job, good grades. I wasn't a problem child. But he'd say things like, "In my house, we clear our plates the second we're done eating." In his house. The nerve of this guy. Every time he said it, I would just stare at him until he looked away. Then came the final straw. It was about a month before my 18th birthday. They sat me down at the dining room table. It felt like a corporate firing. Mom had this fake, sad smile on her face. Mark looked smug. "Alex," my mom started. "Mark and I have some wonderful news. We're getting married." She held up her hand to show me a gaudy ring that I knew for a fact was paid for with my dad's life insurance money. I just stayed silent. "We've been talking about the future," Mark said, taking over. "About our new life together. And we feel that, as you're about to turn 18 and become a legal adult, it's the perfect time for you to embrace your independence." I just stared at him. "What are you talking about?" My mom jumped in, her voice getting all high-pitched and nervous. "What Mark is saying, honey, is that we need this space. To be a couple. To build our home. You'll be heading off to college soon anyway, so it's really just giving you a little head start on, being on your own." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're kicking me out." Mark scoffed. "Don't be so dramatic, Alex. We're not kicking you out. We're launching you. Every bird has to leave the nest." I looked at my mom. I was begging her with my eyes to say this was a joke, to say this wasn't real. But she just nodded along with him, a little puppet on a string. "It's for the best, sweetie. You're a strong young man. Your father always said you were so capable." The hypocrisy was so thick I could have choked on it. Using my dad's words to justify throwing me out of his house for her new leech of a fiancé. That was it. Something inside me just snapped. The grief, the anger, the hurt, it all solidified into this cold, hard resolve. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just nodded. "Okay," I said. "I understand." They both looked so relieved. They were expecting a fight, a teenage tantrum. But I gave them nothing. For the next few weeks, I was the model son. I was polite. I did my chores. I let them talk about their wedding plans and their renovation ideas. They thought I had accepted my fate. They thought I was a pushover. They had no idea what my dad had really taught me. He didn't just teach me about cars. He taught me about planning. My 18th birthday arrived. It was a Tuesday. They got me a cupcake with a single candle and a card with a $50 bill in it. "Happy birthday, champ," Mark said, clapping me on the back. "Welcome to adulthood. We found some great apartment listings for you to look at." I just smiled. "Thanks. This means a lot. Actually, I have a meeting I need to go to. I'll be back in a little while." They looked confused, but I just grabbed my keys and left. My meeting wasn't with an apartment manager. It was with Mr. Davison, my dad's lawyer and oldest friend. I'd called him the day after they told me to move out. He had been waiting for my call. He walked me through everything. My dad, my wonderful, meticulous, forward-thinking dad, had seen this coming. Not the specifics, maybe, but he knew my mom wasn't good with money or major decisions. He wanted to make sure I was taken care of. When I got back to the house, my mom and Mark were in the living room, a stack of boxes next to the couch. "Oh good, you're back," my mom said brightly. "We thought you could get a start on packing up your room." This was it. The moment. I walked over, not to the boxes, but to the coffee table. I placed a thick manila envelope down on it. "What's this?" Mark asked, picking it up. "It's for you," I said, my voice perfectly calm. "For both of you." He opened it. His smug expression slowly melted away, replaced by a deep, confused frown. My mom leaned over to see. I watched the color drain from her face. Inside the envelope were 2 documents. The first was a copy of my father's will. The second was a formal 30-day eviction notice. "I don't understand," my mom whispered, her voice trembling. This says the house was put in a trust." "That's right," I said. "Dad set up a testamentary trust. He left you the car, your personal savings, and a generous monthly allowance from his life insurance for as long as you remained unmarried. But the house, the stocks, the majority of the assets, they were all put in a trust for me. A trust that I became the sole beneficiary and trustee of this morning. The moment I turned 18. I let that sink in. The silence in the room was deafening. Mark finally found his voice. It was a squeak. You're lying. That's not possible. Oh, it's very possible, I said, pulling out my phone. I have Mr. Davison's number right here if you'd like to confirm. He's the estate attorney. He'd be happy to explain the legal ramifications of you refusing to vacate my property after 30 days. My mom just stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. You're your property? Alex, this is my home. This is our family home. And that's when I finally let all the pain and anger show. It stopped being our family home when you sold Dad's car to go on vacation with him. It stopped being my home when you told me you needed the space for your new life and that I had to get out. You said it was time for me to be a man and stand on my own 2 feet. Well, I'm doing it. And my first adult decision as the owner of this house is to ask you, my tenant, to leave. Mark exploded. He started yelling, calling me an ungrateful brat, a liar. He stood up, trying to use his size to intimidate me. But I didn't flinch. He had no power here. He was just a guest whose welcome had expired. You can't do this, my mom cried, tears finally starting to flow. I'm your mother. And I'm your landlord, I said, my voice as cold as ice. You have 30 days. And that brings us back to the beginning. The next month was the most awkward, tense month of my life. They tried everything. Mom tried crying and guilt-tripping. Mark tried threats and legal-sounding nonsense he'd clearly looked up on Google. I just held firm. I had the law, and more importantly, my dad's foresight on my side. On the final day, they moved out. As I watched that U-Haul drive away, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel happy. I mostly just felt empty. I had won, but I had lost my mother. The woman who raised me had been replaced by this stranger who would throw her own child away for a worthless con man. The aftermath? Well, it's been about 6 months. Mark, predictably, left her about 2 months after they moved into their crappy little apartment. I guess it wasn't as much fun when he actually had to pay rent and she didn't have a big house and a steady flow of my dad's money to spend. She's called me a few times, crying, apologizing, saying she made a terrible mistake. I'm not ready to forgive her. Maybe I never will be. I'm helping her with a small amount of money each month, just enough for her to get by, because I know my dad wouldn't want me to see her on the street. But a relationship? That's going to take a long, long time. As for me, I'm doing okay. I'm a freshman in college now, studying business. I'm living in the house, my house. I painted my room, but I left my dad's height chart on the wall. Sometimes, when the house feels too quiet, I stand there and trace the lines with my fingers. I'm honoring his memory by being the responsible man he taught me to be. I'm protecting what he worked his whole life to build. It was a hell of a way to learn how to be an adult, but I'm standing on my own 2 feet. In my own damn house. So yeah, that's the story of how I had to evict my own mom to keep the home my dad left me.